Hello, today's discussion or lecture will be on anti-bicycle behaviour in Australia and more specifically in the ACT region. For some reason, cyclists are ostracised by motorists, by albeit a small, but unfortunately it's a less small minority of motorists here than anywhere else in the world, parts of which I've ridden extensively. For some reason, these bigots hate cyclists quite unreasonably, and they use strange arguments that are invariably flawed. And in any event, these guys are doing you a favour by being on a bicycle compared to being in another car. Being on a bicycle means there's one less car, so there's less congestion, which people argue against. They say that cyclists actually add to congestion because I was behind a bicycle the other day, and they were going really slow up a hill and holding up all the traffic. Well, if you want to compare if they cause or ease congestion, look at and it's not a very wet climate here in Canberra, but when it is wet and you're commuting, the traffic is much, much worse on rainy days because many, or perhaps most of those otherwise cyclists are in cars those days. So it's much harder to get a park and the roads are much busier. The weather, I'm sure, has some impact, but the main impact is because there are more cars on the road. There are fewer bikes. So, it's a ridiculous argument. And they say, that one bike, there's 5 million cars anyway, and you blame the one bicycle. It's an interesting, apparently a common perception that people with whom you identify, in this case motorists who see other motorists behaving badly, see them as an exception. If they see a cyclist behaving badly, they say, oh, that's all cyclists. So this is not an uncommon reality apparently. That again, we identify bad behaviour as the exception when those people are like us. The other thing cyclists do a big favour to motorists is that they don't take up car parking, and that's another big issue. Can you believe it or not, it's actually an issue in Canberra, one of the least, the bush capital of one of the least densely populated countries in the world. There's a shortage of car parking. Huge amount of money, resources, and revenue is raised because of car parking. Get on your bike, it's not a problem. The other thing is cyclists help reduce fuel usage, which obviously is good environmentally, but I'm not going to bang on about the benefits of cycling. The cyclists know the benefits of cycling, manifold, including for the environment, for pollution, health benefits, and all that sort of stuff. But all of that aside, I think you probably find that if you use your right to bicycle, if you took up that right, you might actually enjoy it and start benefiting enormously. So the reduced demand actually on fuel helps reduce upward pressure on fuel, so they're doing you a favour. Easing congestion, reduced demand for car parks, and reduced price rises in fuel. So they're doing you a favour and you still ostracise them. You hear this sort of old chestnut, I saw a cyclist run a red light. Well, cars run red lights too, and the consequences of that behaviour is very, very different if you're in a car running a red light or on a bicycle running a red light. Put it this way, have you ever walked across a don't walk signal? I bet you have. If you haven't, you're either perhaps obsessive compulsive, or sometimes a little bit impractical, or have a very unusual strict adherence to the blind adherence to the doctrine of rules, rather than using rules for the guidance of the wise. Let's put it that way. So if you walk across a don't walk signal, it's the same thing. Consequences are you take the actions. That action has consequences that you wear, i.e. you get hit by a car. Now I'd rather be hit by a bicycle running a red light when I'm in a car than being on a bicycle hit, than being hit by a car, running a red light if I'm on a bicycle. The only reason I can think this irrational anti-cycling, the prevalence of this opinion is envy. When there's a media article that raises these issues, the predictable and disappointing rhetoric and bigotry that comes out by the comments of the blogs is very consistent. Some of the more reasonable ones are always from the people who say, I ride and I drive. Well, look, most cyclists also drive, and I'm one of those, and I'm certainly very, very supportive of any cyclist I see when I'm driving, because they're actually doing me a favour. But as Albert Einstein once said, words to the effect of that few people are able to argue with equanimity opinions that differ from their own social environment. Most people, in fact, are incapable of even forming such opinions. So go get on a bike, maybe see things from the other side, or please just understand that they're doing you a big favour. Thanks very much.